The following dates apply to the USA only. We are concentrating on the USA as this has the most creative works available in the public domain. We'll come to the UK later on. December 31st, 1922. 1st January 1923, 31st December 1963. Important numbers 28, 67 or 95. Anything published in the USA before 1923, i.e., up to December 31st, 1922, is in the public domain, period. Whatever it is, be it book, photo, painting, music, asterisk, it doesn't matter, it's in the public domain, which means you can do whatever you want with it. Asterisk actually only sheet music or song lyrics can be in the public domain. In the USA, all music in the form of sound recordings are under copyright until at least 2067. However, there is a way to download certain recordings, and we'll cover those in another post which will also cover where to find them. 31st January 1923, 31st December 1963. Anything published between these two dates automatically came with a 28-year copyright. However, if the copyright was not renewed in the 28th year, then the work fell into the public domain. If it was renewed, then the copyright extended for another 67 years or 95 years from first being published. Example: if a work was published in 1930 and the copyright was renewed in 1958, then the copyright would not run out until 2025. 1958 plus 67 years equal 2025. The other calculation is to add 95 onto the year of publication, which is in this case means 1930 plus 95 equal 2025. It just depends on whichever method you feel comfortable with. Apparently between 85% 93% of all creative works published between these two dates never had the copyright renewed. This means there is a vast ocean of available material for you to access and use in whichever way you want. What about works published from 1964 onwards, you might ask? Well, from 1964, 1977 copyright is automatically 95 years from date of publication, which means it'll be 2059 before any of that material is in the public domain, so it really isn't relevant if, like me, you're in your 50s already. This also applies to works published from 1978 onwards, although the length of time of copyright varies between 70, 120 years or 75 years after the death of the author/creator. Again, this is irrelevant for our purposes. Important: in the UK, creative works have a copyright until the end of the 70th year after the death of the author/creator. Note that it's the end of the 70th year, not the 70th anniversary of the author's death. So if the author died in June 1930, their work would not be in the public domain in the UK until the 1st January 2001. Now, it's also important to note that even if the work was published and in the public domain in one country, it doesn't mean it's in the public domain in another. A good example here is Peter Pan, written by J.M. Barrie. This was written in 1920 and published in the UK then. It was also published in the USA in 1922, so technically it was in the public domain in the USA, but not in the UK, as the author was still alive. In fact, he didn't die until 1937, so Peter Pan would not normally come into the public domain in the UK until 2008. However, an amendment to the 1988 Copyright Designs and Patents Act in the UK was passed to allow the copyright for Peter Pan to run indefinitely in the UK, with all royalties being allocated to the trustees of the Hospital for Sick Children, Great Ormond Street, London, for as long as the hospital exists. The book could be sold by anyone if they resided in the USA without fear of breach of copyright, but not so in the UK. So you now know what dates to look for when searching for a product that's in the public domain. They are very important, so keep them close for reference. It's also important to note that there is a lot of information published that does not have copyright. This applies to government publications, as these are produced for the general public and paid for out of public funds, and so can be used by the general public in any legal way. There are easy ways to find out if a product is in the public domain, especially books which are the most popular product searched for, but we'll talk about those in another post.